everyone, this is Crystal and I'm back with another 12 by 12 layout for Hip Kit Club. Today I'm scrapbooking this photo, which is another one in a series of photos from a recent concert we went to that I'm using the June kit to scrapbook. So this I think is the last one that I'll be doing. And today is Tuesday, so our focus is on cut files. So I grabbed one of the very recently released June cut files. I thought it would be perfect for this. It's kind of I don't know, a kaleidoscope looking cut file. I cut it just out of some white cardstock from my stash. But then I also cut it from some plastic and made a stencil. So this is just a like a binder divider, like the kind of plastic sheet divider you put in a binder to, separate sections. And I got them very cheaply. You can get them at the dollar store. I actually got mine even cheaper from our local grocery store. Randomly, they were on clearance for 25 cents a package. So I got 5 of them for 25 cents, and I just used one of them to cut this. It's roughly 8 by 8, I believe, which is about as big as you can get on a 8.5 by 11 divider like this. So because it's plastic, it'll wash up easily, and I'm going to use this as a stencil on my background and then use this as a layer behind my photo. I believe that is my plan so far anyway. I do have some of the mixed media supplies. I have 2 of the blues from recent color kits. The Azure Sea Asters is the most recent, and then also Tilt-A-Wheel Teal from a previous kit. I'm going to start by adding some clear gesso to my page, and then we will get started with the mixed media. So I'm going to start by just adding some clear gesso to my page, and I'm just using a palette knife to do this. And I could have certainly used white gesso since I'm using a white background, but the more I play with this clear gesso, the more I like it. It's much smoother than the white gesso that I have, and it just leaves a nicer surface to work on, and it also doesn't add another shade of white to the page because it's clear, and the white gesso is never the same color white as my background paper. So yeah, I've been enjoying playing with it. That's why I chose it today. Now I'm just adding some modeling paste through the stencil that I created with the cut file from this month, or from June, that is. And just putting a real thin layer. So because this is a stencil I made myself, it's much thinner than other stencils that I've used. So it just adds a really thin layer if I just make it even with the top of the stencil, which is what I'm doing. And then you saw me just wipe off some excess modeling paste that was on the page that was kind of, it had seeped through the outside of the stencil, so it didn't really need to be there. And then I just quickly hit it with a heat gun so that I could overlap some of the stenciling here without messing up the modeling paste that was already on the page. So I just dried it just enough so that it wouldn't smush under the top of the stencil, and then lined it up. And then I'm just going to add more modeling paste and make the stencil stretch all the way to the bottom of the page. And then wipe off the excess, and again lift it up, and there it is. So that needs to dry, so I am going to set that aside to dry for a while. And now that that is done, I'm taking some of the Lindy's Stamp Gang Magical Powders, and just with a little tiny palette knife, just dripping some of the dry powder directly onto the page where I have the modeling paste. So I'm using the 2 that I've pulled out and just kind of sprinkling it around randomly. I want them to mix and blend, so I'm adding them both all over the page. And then I have a tiny little spray bottle of water, and I'm just spraying everywhere so that that powder activates, and I get this really beautiful blue, or these shades of blue, that is. And you can see there are lots of different shades within these single powders. So there's some yellow, some kind of greenish colors on the page. So I just took a brush and hit the parts that had a lot of powder sitting to activate all of that powder, and then sprayed more around the edges to make sure that everything would flow everywhere I wanted it on the page when I picked it up and moved it around. And it was all looking a little too similar in color, so I added some of the darker blue to the page again, just to give it some variation in shade. And then I went searching for the shakers that we got last month, because I knew there was a darker blue, and I could not find mine anywhere. So I I didn't know at the time what had happened to them. I've since found them. I think my cats knocked them out of the little container they were in, and luckily they didn't open, so they didn't spill. But I did find it. But because I couldn't find it, I just used a spray from my stash. It's just a navy blue spray. I think it's from Studio Calico from a long time ago, but I just wanted something darker. I wanted a darker shade of blue added to the background of this page, and that accomplished it for me. So once I have all of that on, I just added a little bit more water to spritz it around and make it all blend. And then I'm hitting it with a heat gun and using the heat gun to move it around the page and get the color exactly where I want it. And then I'm going to set this aside again to dry for quite a while. There was quite a bit of water on the page, so it took a little bit of time to dry. And here it is all done. You can see all the beautiful color and shimmer that's on the background now. So I've picked out a few papers that I think I might want to use and pulled those out of the kit. Again, this is the June kit. So I chose that Vicki Boutin one that's kind of teal color because it matched the colors in my background. And then I wanted to add some contrast. So I picked this Heidi Swapp paper from Color Fresh with the black and white stripes, and I'm going to add that behind my photo. But first I'm going to give it a white matte just to add some separation between it and all the different colors and contrasting papers that are going to be behind it. So this will just make the photo itself stand out a bit more than it would without the white border. And this is just regular cardstock, just like you would put through your printer. And I just had it happen to be laying there, so that's what I picked up to use. And then I'm going to add this Heidi Swapp paper directly behind my photo, just with a small mat. And I played around with it a little bit to see which direction I wanted those stripes going, but I really liked the black on the sides of my photo, and then just the black and white peeking out at the top and bottom. So that's the direction I went with. And it does, the pattern changes a little bit in the corner there, but you won't see that. I will add embellishments there to cover that up. And then I'm going to add this Vicki Boutin paper behind that to just bring in some more of that teal color and connect this with the background a bit more. So I could have adhered it directly to this paper, but I thought maybe I would want to pop it up. So I just cut it roughly, and then I'm going to add some foam behind the Heidi Swapp paper and add some dimension in between this and that final layer behind my photo. And then just stick that down at a slight angle just to add a little bit of interest and to keep things from looking too squared off and even. So I'm going to add this cut file that it's the same cut file that I used for the stencil, and I've cut it just from some white cardstock. I'm going to add it to the background first. I'm going to use some liquid glue to do that because I have so much gesso and modeling paste on the page. It's going to need liquid glue for it to stick. So it took me a while to add liquid glue to all these little bits of the cut file, but I eventually got it done. I just used my fine liner bottle, and it's holding some Scotch tacky adhesive right now, so that worked really well. It stuck well to the background once I got it all covered in glue. And then I can add my photo as well, and I'm going to use the same adhesive because there is so much texture behind it. I want to make sure it sticks well, so I just added some adhesive to the center, which gives me some room to tuck things in around the edges if I decide to do so as we go on. So next I'm going to work on my title because I want to make sure that I leave lots of space for it. I don't want to add embellishments and then not have space for my title. So I'm just going to start with it and then make sure that I don't lose room for it. So once again, I'm using these kind of iridescent thickers, but I'm not using the words that are on the sheet. I'm making my own words, and I had to do some finagling to make this happen. But I'm going to create the word smile. So I had an S, I used an E. For the M, I used a W turned upside down, and then there was an L and an I already on the sheet that I pulled off. And it actually, I think it looks like it was meant to be that way, so it turned out really well. So I just stuck those down, and then I'm going to add some more of these indigo foam thickers above it. So the title is going to be Smile, 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 which is from, again, from lyrics from one of the songs that were played the night that we were at the concert. So I thought that was appropriate because we're both kind of laughing in the photo. So yeah, that's going to be my title. And I'm just going to spell out the other two smiles with these indigo thickers, but I didn't get them on straight, and it was bothering me. Something looked very off, so I grabbed my T-square ruler and just kind of lined everything up. They do stick well to this paper eventually, but you are able to move them at first, so it's nice to be able to adjust them a little bit. And then I thought I would want to add some more of that iridescent, some more iridescence, I guess, to the page. So I was looking at that sheet of stickers because there are so many other little shapes and trying to figure out where I would want to include some more of them, but I decided to do some of the other embellishing and then come back with those later. So I grabbed one of the epoxy clips. These are from Pinkfish Studios Out and About. And there was one that was blue. So I'm keeping things pretty monochromatic on the page, sticking with shades of blue and teal. So that I thought that clip would work well at the top of my photo, so I just tucked it in there. I had to move some of the foam that I had put behind the photo out of the way to get it to stick there, but eventually I got it to work. And then I'm going to add a little tab from this set of Vicki Boutin thickers to the top of the page as well. I thought maybe I could use one of the Out and About frames, but I couldn't find one that worked for the sentiment of the photo. So I set those aside and instead grabbed one of the Amy Tangerine little kind of pom-pom. They're like leatherette pom-poms. Or they might be foam. I'm not sure what they're made of, but they're like little pom-poms. They're very dimensional. I love the way that they look. I was finally able to find a space for one of them on one of my pages, just at the bottom corner of my photo. I will end up putting more embellishments there. So I'll kind of have 3 embellishment clusters, really 2, and then just one small one above my title to make a little visual triangle around my photo. So I needed to add some foam behind that little epoxy clip because there was so much dimension on the back and it was popped up quite a bit. So I needed some foam to make it stick, and then I had the hardest time getting that to stay. But once I added the foam behind that other little tab I put up there and stuck it down, then everything kind of stayed together. But I had a lot of trouble at first getting that to stick. I tried putting some weight on it and it wasn't enough weight. It still popped up, but eventually it stuck down. So I'm looking for some other embellishments to add to that bottom cluster. And I thought I would look through the ephemera pack to see if there was anything there. I grabbed out a few things. That heart is one of them. It doesn't end up making it on the page. I think I've tried to put that heart on every page I've created and it's never made it on the page. But this little I love you hand sign language hand does make it on the page eventually. I also thought the clouds might work because they're blue and because I've used clouds on another page that is from the same night or the same event, but I don't end up keeping those either. I end up taking those off. It didn't look, it looked like too much, like it just wasn't necessary. It didn't add anything to the page, so I took those off. But I did add this little sticker from the Heidi Swapp stickers, the little 6x12 stickers that we got in one of the kits. I did add those and I just cut it in half and added it to both clusters above and below the photo. And then I had one tiny little piece of the kind of teal banner that was in the ephemera pack, and I just added that below my title, just with some liquid adhesive again to make sure it's stuck well. And now I'm just playing around with this bottom cluster to see exactly how I want it to look. And I ended up taking all those other things off and sticking with just these few little bits I have. I did add one of the puffy stickers, little circle stickers, and then there was another chipboard sticker that I added earlier. I don't think I mentioned that. And that's going to be it for that cluster so far. I do go back and add one more thing. But right now I'm looking for other things that are kind of brown or that craft color. Because I added that hand in the bottom cluster, I felt like the other parts of the page needed some of that craft brown color to make it tie in a bit more. So I found a little arrow, circle, chipboard piece, and I added that to that top cluster. And then there was a little, another chipboard kind of banner or arrow, I guess, that I added above my title, and I will add some adhesive to make sure that that sticks well. I'm adding liquid glue to a lot of these little bits and pieces because I want to make sure they stick well to the page, and because there are so many layers and there's so much dimension on the background, the liquid glue is really the best bet to make sure everything sticks where you want it to stick. So it's almost done. This is just about the end of my page. I am just going to make sure that everything is well stuck down and put some weight on the parts that don't want to stay stuck to the page. And then I'm going to come back in with that same dark blue ink and add some splatters. Again, it would have worked out great if I had been able to find that magical shaker that is the dark blue, and it would have been the perfect color, but because I couldn't find it, I just had to work with what I had on hand. So I'm going to use that same ink that I used earlier and add some splatters. Oh, but I forgot. I knew I wanted to add some more of this iridescent stickers. So I added one kind of behind both of the little circles that I had on the page in the two clusters. So the one little arrow circle at the top, I add one behind there, and then I added one behind that bottom puffy circle sticker as well. And then that ties in that part of my title. So here is where the splatters come in, and then that is going to be it for this page. That is the page all done, and I believe it's the last one in this little series that I've done of this event. There are lots of close-up photos coming up, so stay tuned to see those. And if you got some inspiration, I hope you'll give this video a thumbs up. It does mean a lot to me. It lets me know that you like what I'm doing. And if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed watching this video. And I will see you all back here very soon.